everyone.
How's
So
it
good to be
going?
back.
Yeah, it's been a while for you, hasn't it, Arisa?
Yeah. I missed it last time, and means like I was not in live stream for 2 months, nearly 2 months, I guess. So it's quite some time. Yeah.
Yeah. Once you miss one event, it's already like a super large gap.
Yeah. I feel like I miss a lot of things.
No.
Yeah.
Luckily, there are recordings, aren't there? I feel like on our YouTube, there should probably be a recording.
Yeah. I think so. I'm definitely gonna check that out
Yeah.
because it's gonna be like, holiday season. So I'm gonna check that out like when I have time.
Yeah, there's some time to that. But first of
Yeah.
all, hi everybody. Welcome to Girl Code Coffee Break, episode 4 already. Time flies. Today's topic is growing as a developer. And if this is your first time, welcome. If it's not your first time, welcome as well, I guess.
Welcome back.
Yeah, welcome back. Here we are. Usually we're three girls from Storyblock, funnily enough. And we noticed all of us three are Girl Code ambassadors. Girl Code is a great initiative, I think originally from the UK, working for more equality in tech. And we figured as ambassadors, we're going to host a little meetup. And that's what we've been doing the last 4 months already.
Yeah. Oh, 4 months. Nice.
Time flies.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
last time we were talking about personal
Imposter
branding.
syndrome. Yes.
Oh, imposter syndrome as well. Yeah.
No. My mind was like starting from the beginning, but that was like previous one. Sorry.
Yeah, imposter syndrome was one of them. Last time we had personal branding, and so there's just different things. And if there is any other topic you want us to talk about in the future, you can always reach out and let us know. We're happy to take suggestions.
All right. I'm always amazed, like how you're so good at doing MC stuff. Thanks a lot for helping me.
Rambling.
No, I totally would get nervous, like if I need to do like MC stuff, and I've never done that before. So intro part is kind of like okay, but it's MC-ish stuff. So
it's a challenge for 2023, then maybe.
Maybe.
So if you are here, maybe we can give people one more minute to join. But if you're joining us already, maybe drop in the chat where you're joining from. We always love to see where people are joining us from. And if you're missing Monica, she is not so well, so she couldn't join us today. But for sure, she'll be back next time. And we wish her fast recovery and miss her, but she'll be back.
Yeah. Oh, GirlCode is here. Hey.
That's awesome. Nice. Yeah, it's a really great community. If you are not a part, check them out. Of course, you don't have to join this, but you can, and we recommend it.
Yeah, indeed, they provide a lot of like resourceful information about like how people in general were like getting into tech, and you will see like more of, for example, like women and non-binary people like getting into tech. So if you're looking for such kind of information and also some educational sources like where you can get which specific kind of content or the technologies that you want to learn, these kind of infos are also out there too. And you will get to know a lot with them because there is actually a Slack I guess group and the Discord where you can like get to know each other and be friends in there. So I highly recommend that.
Yes. Awesome. Shall we dive into today's topic?
Let's dive in.
And if you have any question about growing as a developer, about continuing to learn, about anything related to it or not related to it really, please drop the questions in the chat. We're really happy to talk about anything related to that. But apart from that, so Arisa, do you like what's your take on growing as a developer? Do you feel like you already know it all? Or what's your strategy, if you will?
I would say, well, first of all, I feel that I know still very little things about something, like that I want to know and want to learn, keep learning about it. Because, first of all, I joined tech like quite late. I joined tech 5 to 6 years ago. So, compared to someone with almost like similar ages with us, but already like we're coding since like I don't know 5 or like even under 10 years old. I don't have like over 10 or 15 years of the experiences. So clearly like there is I would say one element that I feel that I know like very little compared to those like who have already like more than 10, 15, or even 20 years of experience. So this fact I need to admit I have. So it's not like I feel that, oh, I know everything. I'm a queen of knowing everything out there in front. No, that's not the case that I have. So that's the thing, background that I have. But the thing is, like, I try to, like do something what I could do to make me feel a little bit, like less how do I put like let's put in myself, like always like something pressures that okay, I know very little, so I maybe like shouldn't speak up for something, let's say like what I am capable of or knowing about it, or just do what I can do. No, I want to always like keep developing my skills. So there are a couple of things that I'm trying out, myself too. But before getting into that, I also want to know about Josefine's case. So I also want to know if you feel, for example, if you're already feeling comfortable about like, oh, I know everything about in the tech world and I totally skilled or not, and also like, how do you kind of do, let's say like helping yourself or feeling a little bit, like better if you're not,
Yeah.
feeling that you're, yeah.
Yeah, is a really interesting question. And I think in many ways I relate to what you said. I also didn't come like for me it was when you said you have been in the tech industry only for 6 years, I started sweating because I I have been here for like 3 years, and I was like, oh no, only 6 years, now I'm scared. Like, um, I have been in the tech space even less time, and so I feel like I even need to make up for coming late and put pressure on myself to learn even more. And at the same time, we're in tech. There is a new JavaScript framework every Tuesday. It feels
Yeah,
like. And so
yeah.
it's impossible to know it all. And by the time I realized that, I was like, okay, I can breathe. There's going to be always something new to learn, but I'm not going to do it all in one day, right? So I think it's even like a matter of attitude, like continuous learning and continuing to want to grow is more of a general attitude, regardless of whether you have been here for a year or 20 years, in my opinion. And I think it's super cool if folks who have been like working in tech forever and they're still like, oh no, there's something cool and new, I want to try that, I want to like challenge myself, right? So I think that's really, really cool. And I hope I can stay that way and just feel like, okay, something new and shiny, let's try it.
Yeah, I say that like in general, I would say like mainly in the front end, let's say tech world, people are really like being interested in about knowing the new technologies that are coming up, because I mean, as front end world is like really fast, like moving. I mean, like you might hear something new like every week, or you might see like some of the new frameworks libraries coming up in like I don't know, like another year or less than a year or so. So I think it's quite important to have such kind of spirit that you're interested in to know about the new things. Because if you don't have this kind of spirit that I feel so lazy about like again learning the new stuff, then maybe that something could be a little bit like hard if you want to develop your skills later on. But I believe that people who are watching this streaming is in general interested in about to in any ways to develop your skills. So
No, for
yeah.
sure. For sure.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
especially in the beginning, I guess that can feel super overwhelming because like where do you start, right? Like how would
Yeah.
you how would you go about it or how did you approach that when you just started out? Like where do you begin?
Yeah, and also I believe that the timing you join the, let's say, tech world, in this case, let me say that front-end technologies, because I'm
Mhm.
not aware of the back-end technology side.
Mhm.
When you get into the front-end, let's say, tech world, nowadays it's like so much more things you need to study. So I feel like you need to take longer time to feel that you're ready to be in the
True.
field, because the time I started, it was like 2017. And at the time was like, okay, companies started to use React in more production, let's say level or the scale of the applications. And now let's start learning about React stuff. So even in the free code camp, they didn't have React course yet. So I
Oh,
was
wow.
like,
Mhm.
no, not yet at the time. And it was more of like in a transition of like from ES5 to ES6. So the boot camps and the programming schools, they provide the sources with ES5, but in the fields, you need to already, like code stuffs from, like something to ES6, or you need to migrate into that.
Mhm.
So I mean, like at the time was like mainly my point is like still, let's say like in the agencies or the developers who were already working there were in a phase of catching up. So I was joining at the
Mhm.
time. So it means like I was kind of like in a nice sweet spot where everyone was still, was like catching up things together with you. So, but now you have so much, like libraries and the frameworks to learn. So I feel like
Mhm.
people nowadays joining, they have like a little bit more things to learn. That's what I
Yeah.
feel. But, yeah.
Yeah, it's more and less in a way, right? Because some things have also become easier, right? Like, I mean, I'm no expert on that at all, but I feel like with the new frameworks, it has become a lot easier to almost develop like full stack-ish and
Mhm.
deploy really quickly. And like, it's a very different approach than it was before, I'm guessing.
Yeah.
um, but yeah, I don't wanna go too deep on that, but I feel like it's we will always feel like, oh boy, there's always like something new to learn and we're all just catching up and like trying to run after the moving train, if you will. So yeah, for
Yeah.
sure, for sure.
Yeah, yeah. I actually wanted to ask, in general, you, Josephine, and everyone, whoever is watching this streaming, about what kind of, let's say, challenges that you do for yourself to improve your development. For example, it could be that you keep taking online courses for every month, or you're reading some type of the books to adapt the new skills, things like that. Do you do some kind of stuff to develop your skills?
Mhm. Well, maybe people listening can put it in the chat if they
Oh
want
yeah,
to.
yeah,
And let us know because I would love to like hear from other people because I want to do this, but I have no structure. So it's very much all over the place, right? So
yeah, yeah, yeah.
I will rather learn what I need in that moment when I notice like, okay, so I know very little about CSS. I should really like get into that more. Then I will like read blog posts or follow some people on Twitter who I see sharing a lot of cool, interesting things, or maybe watch a YouTube tutorial and then follow up a little bit or do some challenges. For CSS, there are
Mhm.
also some fun games where you can like play around, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So that's like really cool. But for me, it's more like need based. And I want to get to a point where I'm like, okay, so this is what I'm interested in. So I'm actually like gonna structure a little bit my learning, but I haven't gotten there yet. So this is gonna be a bit of a challenge for me for the next year for sure. How do you do
Yeah.
that?
Well, in my case, it's also like no structure actually, and in my case, it's more of like experimental. Every single kind of, let's say, new ways that I challenge myself are like experimental. So one day I'm like, okay, I really got to learn about TypeScript, and I want to be like a super expert about it, but the thing is like I never reached out to the point that I am super expert about TypeScript yet. And but despite from what I'm feeling, I have taken like quite some of the approaches, like taking the books, joining the workshops, sometimes like joining the conferences that are related to TypeScripts, not as a speaker in this case, attendees more likely, things like that. So it's really experimental. And on the other hand, like in some other time, I feel like I'm more of like a visual learner. So I prefer to maybe like watch something tutorials, something like with the video kind of course, like Egghead or Udemy, or some exclusive, let's say like some of the developers who I know keep producing, like nice sources out there. So sometimes I'm like trying out a bit of something, the new way that I was never trying out before. Sometimes I realize that, okay, that's not for me. And again, moving on to try out something new. So there's no like logic or something that I have a structure, but it's more of like whenever I find time, then I try to try a bit of like everything. But one thing I do is that, well, I used to be actually a freelance front-end developer. So at the time, the thing is like I had a bit of more time when it comes to, let's say, like keep developing my skills compared to like when I belong in a company and work with some dedicated tasks that I need to work together with the teams, and like the kind of the levels of the tasks are higher than what I used to be a freelance. So with that, I started to struggle to manage my time because I don't want to, like fill up all of my spare time to just code. I also want to have my private time. I want to do some workout. I want to go out, things like that. So to have a balance, I started to actually like take some knowledge, stock like off. So, for example, like not consuming, my paid time of leave, but luckily, like the company where both of us work, including Monica, we have a structure of like if we worked a little bit longer than the hours that we supposed to work, then we can consume these hours as compensation time. So I have a little bit like more than I expected. So I take these kind of, let's say, kind of hours for combining into some nice few days of like technically off, but I use it for some kind of knowledge stock, let's say days off, so that I
That's so
feel
cool.
comfortable. Yeah.
Yeah, that's such a good use of your time as well. It's almost like in German we have this kind of special vacation for educating yourself, but
Oh,
in
okay.
Bildungsurlaub. And in
Okay.
like more traditional companies, you could request that and then go
Mhm.
learn something. And you're kind of doing that for yourself, which is so cool. Because I think like in most tech jobs, you would rather go to a conference, right? Or like learn by
Yeah.
yourself. But this, oh,
Mhm.
this is, I'm gonna make a note. Like this is like
Yeah.
DIY Bildungsurlaub. I love it.
Yeah,
That's
exactly.
really
I like that.
cool.
I like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I feel
Okay.
much more comfortable after, like, let's say, like last time I had like 1 week off for my knowledge, stock days off. And I was like learning, some, let's say, animations and the 3D technologies out there. And I was
Wow.
like taking the courses, and I felt that, whoa, this much fun stuffs were out there. I didn't know about it. And now I feel like quite comfortable that I'm in the
Mm-hmm.
field. So yeah,
Wow, that's so
that's
cool.
what, made me feel better too. Yeah.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, it's also really great if you have an employer that kind of
Mm-hmm.
how you say that helps you like get better,
Mm-hmm.
and you can actually use some of your work time to like
Yeah.
develop yourself, right? I wish all companies would implement that. Somebody said in the chat, yeah, for sure. We are very
Yeah.
privileged to be in that position, and I wish it was everywhere the same case.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
yeah, like if you have the possibility to learn like a tiny bit during your work time, that's also going to lower the threshold already, because you don't have to take
Mm-hmm.
time out of your like life where we're
Yeah.
all very busy, right? So maybe
Exactly.
Yeah. Didn't you also once do is it like 100 days of code or something? What is that
Oh
called?
yeah, oh yeah, 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 yeah. This one, I was kind of doing it. The thing is, like, need to bring up my memories. There was like a very good like blank notebooks out there that you could purchase. I mean, it's made for like 100. Actually, I have one. I'm gonna disappear from the screen 1 second, but I hope you still can hear me, and I will be back in 1 sec. It's just right here. Okay.
And in the
So this is the
background, we
thing.
can. Oh,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. There are a couple of different designs and really terrible memory, but there is one developer who is creating these like blank notes, literally. But the thing is, like, the layouts are there, so you can fill out like what you have studied in here with your own goals. So sorry about my handwriting, but basically the content in here are like I was reading this TypeScript book over there, TypeScript and 50 lessons. And then I was like writing down like what I have achieved in that day for what kind of topics and things like that. So this also gave me some kind of confidence as well. So trying out and experimenting a lot of stuff that it looks like fun and that I want to try out. So yeah, that was one of the stuffs. Yeah, but there is also like 100 days of code, like hashtag, right, in tweets. I see quite a lot of people tweeting about it. It actually like, yeah, it's actually kind of good movement. Yeah. Have you
yeah, it's
tried this
really
kind of,
cool.
yeah, stuffs?
No, I want to. I just found the
Yeah.
I just found the link to the notebook and put it in our private chat because I got kicked out of Twitch and I can't share
Oh, oh my God.
it. But if you can share it, that would be awesome. Thank you. Um,
Yeah, 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 yeah.
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 So I think this is what you mean, right? And of course, you can write that in any notebook that you wanted to, but that's really cool. I
Yeah.
haven't tried it yet. I was very intimidated because I feel like every day is different, and I'm not sure if I
Mhm.
have an hour every day. And I was like, I don't want to commit to something that I can't stick to, but
Yeah.
I want to try it one day. Yeah, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, yeah. This actually would relate with like learning in public. I mean, like you present what you're studying and then posting it in the social media so that you will have more public eyes on the people, and you could take this, pressure as a kind of good energy that you can put a good pressure on yourself that okay, I kind of said in public that I'm going to study for these, this, and that. So I need to keep doing it. Yeah. So
Gives
I
you
think it's also related.
accountability.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, and nobody's gonna say like, "Oh, but you didn't do day
Yeah.
14." But I know that I did. So
Exactly, exactly. And people try to, I don't know, make look themselves, like look a bit better, like in a public, if they're like people's eyes on. So I know that couple of people, like take this, trick to, let's say, borrowing like the co-working space instead of, like working in a home office. So that they have like, public views from people, then they can use this kind of good pressure to put themselves into the better focus mode than the home office.
yeah,
Yeah,
that's true. Yeah.
yeah,
And the
yeah,
Twitter or whatever space you share something in is gonna create that virtually, right? It doesn't have to be the
yeah,
100
yeah.
days of code challenge. It could also be
Hmm.
like, you write a blog post about something that you learned. This is something that helped me a lot. Like I
Hmm.
didn't start writing for anybody else, but I was like, I learned this. I
Hmm.
need to note it down because future Josephine is going to forget. I know her.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah, right. I actually used to do that the same way, but I see that you're doing still, like nowadays. So I mean, not just like only the pure technical part, but you also like write a lot of things, for example, like how to deliver or like the create the talk content to present at the conferences, I mean the tech talks. So
Mhm.
that's also something helpful for the others too. Yeah, I
No,
guess.
true, but it was also a learning for me, right? Where I was like, okay, so this is a skill that I got now. Things are gonna change
Mm-hmm.
anyway, but I like to like write stuff down and then
Mm.
be kind of yeah, like accountable like that. Or you can choose the
Yeah.
medium, right? You can tweet about it. You
Mm.
can maybe create a project and then request feedback from folks or something. It can be as public or as little public as you want it to be. But I think that really helps like some form, regardless of what it is, of accountability is going to help with growing
Yeah.
also. Because we're not an island, none of us are. And it's kind of a, I mean, it is not necessarily always a team sport, but we get so much better if we get feedback from other people. So I think it's a crucial
Exactly.
part of growing.
Yeah, yeah. And that's the good part, like of I would say like by getting feedback, then you can, gain your skill much faster than just, realizing by yourself. Because I mean, knowing about yourself and realizing about yourself is one of the hardest thing, I would say, because if you only have like one subjective, like perspective, it's gonna be hard. Maybe you're gonna spoil yourself, or the other way. Maybe you're gonna be too much hard on yourself, and that's also not good. So it's always good to have like several, people giving you the feedback. Then you can, like take the balance of what you want to develop your skills, and also what you need to develop your skills, or what it could be that you could take it a little bit like easy. Yeah,
Yeah,
I guess.
absolutely. And I mean, we all know that from situations outside of work as well, right? Like
Oh yeah.
it's so much easier to give a friend advice on like how to solve a situation or something than
Mm.
to think of yourself and be like, how could I approach this? And like, no, when you think about it for yourself, you're always like, no, it's such a mess. I'm never going to get out of it. And if you're talking to somebody else, it's like it's usually really
Yeah,
clear. So I think that
yeah.
also applies to like coding problems for sure.
Yeah, yeah. I was kind of interested in to know about like what kind of, different tools or sources out there that people are using to develop your skills. For example, like I know that there's like hackathon or Hacktoberfest things going on, and there's like I think now is the season of the Advent
Hmm.
code calendar, right? Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, I also wanted to know, like, if people who are watching and here, like, know something that we actually both didn't know about it, that would be
Hmm.
interesting to take a look at it too. So feel
For
free to
sure.
share the thoughts, yeah,
Yeah. Did you
or some of the
try?
experience as well. I actually have tried the Advent calendar. The thing is,
Mhm.
like, when I still used to be a freelance front-end developer, I was like really being active, like in Japanese tech community. Then
Mhm.
in Japanese tech community, how should I put into the service name? There is, oh yeah, there is some kind of hash node-ish things in Japan. It's called Kita, like Qiita. That's how it's spelled. And in there, like you can create, you can write the blog and then create the articles with Markdown format. And also not just that, there was like the advent calendar system going on. So whoever like want to create the advent calendar, even just alone for yourself, you can create advent calendar in there, or you can even invite people to join your advent calendar. To write the tech blog post mainly. So that was the system. I think, joining a couple of times, 2 to 3 times, I guess. And yeah, but Hacktoberfest hackathon, I still haven't yet joined. What about you, Josephine?
Yeah. No, me neither. Every year I'm like, "Oh, I should," and then I'm, like, very scared and very nervous. So I
Yeah.
wish we had Monica here with us because she's a bit more into, like, the whole open source community and
Uh,
all these things. So,
yeah,
um, I
yeah.
I haven't joined that yet, no. I know that DevTO, usually they have some hackathons as well, also outside of,
Mm-hmm.
October, for example. And
Mm.
yeah, same with Advent of Code. I just stumbled across it yesterday and I was like, oh, this looks really cool. But people also say it's very difficult. So I was a bit nervous about it.
Oh,
Um, but I mean, it's worth checking out. And there are also these, is
yeah,
it called Code Wars or something that you can
I've heard of
basically
it.
do?
Yeah.
year
Yeah,
round,
yeah.
right? Yeah,
Mhm, mhm.
like these little or lead code where you have these little challenges that you can just try. And for some time, I used to do one each day, and if you do them regularly, you do get better because the kind of problem solving that is required is like transferable. And this is
Mhm.
also really good practice if you're preparing for a job interview, for example, right? So like these little out of the box small challenges is something super useful.
Yeah, yeah. We really miss Monica here.
Yeah, we do. We do. It's probably half the
Yeah,
fun.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, but I have
Um,
a good friend of mine, and she's quite active in like contributing in Hacktoberfest. And the thing is, like, one thing I realized, like, through her kind of, let's say, post on Twitter, was like, you do not have to be, like taking super difficult, like tasks. Actually, like, you can take, like, from something very small tasks. For example, like contribution to open sources doesn't have to be, that you need to really, jump into like really deep into this open source like code. You can actually, let's say, like contribute, for example, for translation of their documentation, things like that. So you can actually find something like easier, like level of contributions as a starter. And then later on, after you got used to knowing the way, how you can contribute, then you can, like step into a little bit higher levels of contribution. That's what I learned. So
yeah.
I got to know about this info like actually this year. I don't know why it took me so long, but since then I feel that, oh, okay, then maybe it's not something like super geeky, like people out there are just only doing that. So it's for everyone, actually. Yeah.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah, and
Yeah.
speaking of open source things and hackathons,
Hmm.
we wanted to share also the Hack This Fall
Oh, yeah.
hackathon.
Yeah.
Because actually, the man behind the scenes, Sid, who's helping us out with Twitch and live streaming and everything, he is, if I'm not mistaken, core organizer at Hack This Fall. Is that correct? Yeah.
I think
And
so.
yeah, it's an initiative. We're going to post a link in the chat as well. And that's also basically for everybody. It started from like beginners who wanted to learn more and then focus to create something meaningful and enjoy it, right? And share sort of, I mean, share, how do you say that in English? Shared suffering is half the, oh my God, it's very bad German English. But like if you suffer together, it's going to be more fun and you're going to create something cool, right? So they're starting their third season in February. So there's, you don't have to wait for October. There's always cool
Yeah.
initiatives
Yeah.
if you want to get involved. And there's
Yeah.
plenty of other people who can like you can learn together, which is going to be lots more fun, right?
Yeah, yeah. There are a lot of different levels of challenges that you can try. For example, like I mean, like the company we work, Storyblog, we also sometimes, collaborate, or quite a lot of time collaborate with this Hack This Fall. And one time I remember that was like we created the challenge that you try out to build an app with headless CMS. So, for example, if you already have worked on with any kind of headless CMSs, but each headless CMSs works in a slightly different way to, for example, like organize the content. So, in this case, it's going to be a very good chance for you to learn how the other, let's say, like headless CMSs you haven't yet tried out are like working, or you will have a chance to get to know. And that's not something like too difficult stuffs compared to compared to, for example, something that you need to build a complete, like, I don't know, business ready level of app, something like that. So compared to that, that's something more of like a demo level of the challenge, and you will find this kind of levels of the challenges in hackathon out there too.
Yeah.
So it's not like yeah, the typical images you might have.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah.
I also like thought about like what helped me the most or what I think is super useful is finding a mentor. Do you have a mentor or did you have a mentor in the past, Arisa?
I would say currently I do not have a mentor. The one, I mean, for example, that I can ask questions directly or stuff like that. But I used to have had one. I mean, like when I was still like learning in a boot camp, and yeah, he was really good at mentoring, like to teach like the technical part. Also gave me a lot of tips how you can survive as kind of freelance front-end developer, how to get the job, how you're going to, let's say, build the communication with the clients, things like that. So this was like, I would say, kind of the mentor that I had before. But since I was like working like by myself or like after start to work at Storyblok, I actually do not have a mentor that who I can ask like questions like that. But related to that, there's actually like I'm not sure like in Western world or something like that if there's some such kind of system. But from when I used to still being active in Japanese the community, like there was a service called like Menta that is actually spelled coming from mentoring, but they had the system like whoever wants to do the or be the mentors of like anyone who is looking for specific areas of mentoring, technical skills or like I don't know self-branding, things like that. You can register as a mentor, and you also can find the mentors by paying some of amount of the a
Mm.
little cost as a way to show like a thank you. So there is some kind of service out there, and I think I've seen like in I don't know, I forgot which country, but it was more of like an international one. Like you could hire or ask mentor to mentor you, and you would I don't know, like pay them a little bit, like yeah, small amount, or you could do a mentor. But I guess boot camp would be like boot camps are some kind of like a place where you can voluntarily can do, and also you
Mm-hmm.
could join as students to learn with lower cost, I think.
Oh, that's true. Yeah. And then you're like in a cohort or in a class and you
Hmm.
can learn from a teacher. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know the program that you mentioned, but I know there are a bunch of programs like there's also the Women in Tech
Yeah.
mentoring program, for example, and there's a lot of places
Hmm.
that you can actually sign up and people can help you out, right? And I need to look this up because I once like found this place,
Hmm.
people volunteer and you can literally like check who's part of it, what is
Hmm.
their specialty or what have they been working in, and then you can book a slot in their calendar. And that was so useful because I was really confused on like what I wanted to do next
Hmm.
career wise, so I would talk to different women from different teams in like very different fields, and that was so
Hmm.
helpful to like find out whether this was something that I was interested in or like could potentially be cool. Yeah. Because
Yeah.
I oh, thanks for sharing. Yeah, that's the one that you mentioned, right? So
Yeah,
that's really
need to warn it. It's in Japanese, but just as a
cool.
source, because I see a couple of people accessing actually originally from Japan, but for example,
Mhm.
like based in the UK, things like that. So I just wanted to share in general. But
Yeah, yeah, no, that's
yeah,
super helpful. Yeah. Oh, that's
yeah.
nice. Yeah, and I mean, I guess you could even, if you don't want to go through like one of these programs, you could also always reach out to people who you admire and say like, "Hey, are you opening to mentoring?" Right? Like I'm not brave enough to do this personally, but I hear people do that all the time. So take it from them. It's a thing. You can do it. And
Yeah,
they can
yeah,
always, I mean, they can say no, right? People maybe don't have the time, but if you get a chance, that's also
yeah.
really cool.
Yeah,
For sure.
exactly. One thing I thought about is that maybe like if people come to approach, let's say like you or like I don't know whoever you want them to mentor you and asking like, hey, can you be my mentor? This sounds like a little bit like too official, and you feel like so much responsibility, or they might feel so much
Right.
responsibility. That's why they say that no, maybe I'm not yet ready to be
Mhm.
your mentor, or like yeah, things like that. But if you, let's say, like ask whatever kind of questions you have and need the answers from like whoever developers are out there, you can actually like go to the meetups or attend the conferences. And actually, I realized that I am like asking a lot of questions to like whoever like I find interesting, like in the conferences, to ask them, to get some advice. So that I'm kind of like doing in a way of my own like mentoring, but in a casual, sneaky way. Yeah, I guess by asking
Yeah, then
these kind of
then
questions.
the stakes are a bit lower, right? So it's easier
Yeah,
for
yeah,
everybody, and you can just ask what, and you can also kind of pick and choose, right? Because not
yeah,
everybody is gonna know it all, but maybe some
exactly.
folks are like experts in this and others in that. So that's really cool. Yeah, that's a great idea.
Yeah, yeah, and surprisingly, like quite a lot of people, like including like quite famous speakers, they're really like happy to answer, like these
Mhm.
kind of questions. So it's just that you might need to feel brave enough to ask them the questions, but I mean, like they're quite open to it. So if you get a chance, definitely, like give a try and ask them. And quite a lot of them are like quite open to answer such kind of questions. That's what I felt.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I think the only thing that I would consider important, maybe to like up your chances of getting an answer, is to actually
Hmm.
put thought into your question, right? So like say like what
Yeah.
specifically you are looking for from that person, or maybe say like, hey, I
Hmm.
saw you did this and that, and I really thought that was so cool, and I want to try that. And do you have a resource on X, Y? Like be very specific,
Hmm.
because that's going to make it so much easier for
Yeah.
people to actually answer. Because if it's a very vague question, like, hey, so
Mm.
help me.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. That's gonna be so hard to answer
Yeah.
how to help
And
you. So yeah.
yeah, like when you
These.
post a code example and you're like, okay, so
Hmm.
this is the steps to replicate, this is the repo. And in other
Hmm.
ways, it's going to be the same also with more like meta questions, if you will. I think that's
Yeah.
super helpful. Hmm.
Yeah, yeah. It also helps you to ask questions like what kind of answers you're looking for, and also helps, let's say, people who you're gonna ask to elaborate, and understand like what you are asking to them, and then like give the better answers. Yeah,
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 absolutely. No,
yeah.
that's true.
Hmm.
But that's a whole like different story, right? Like asking good questions.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. I have made a lot of like mistakes.
Oh, same, same.
Same,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. But people learn that from mistakes, so that's okay. I
Exactly.
mean,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
I guess it's
Um,
also an important part of like growing as a developer, right? Like, first
mhm,
of all, it's okay to not learn it all in one day, and then you're gonna, if you learn, that means you're approaching something you don't necessarily know, which is good
mhm.
because without it, you're not gonna grow. But that means you're gonna make mistakes. That's just natural. And if you
Yeah,
do, just don't be too hard on yourself because you're doing it right. Like, there have
exactly, exactly.
yeah, there have to be
Yeah.
mistakes, else you're not out of else you're just doing the same thing you already know.
Yeah, yeah. I think it also connects in some way with the imposter syndrome too. I think the people who tend to think that, oh God, I know very little things I need to work harder on, they probably like tend to be too hard on yourself, including myself, and probably Josephine, you also might feel sometimes, and quite a lot of people like watching this streaming, I guess. So the thing is, it's easier to say that don't be hard on yourself. I know that, and it's harder to practice. But the best way is that I think community is one of the best places where you could ask someone to give you the feedback, and you might surprise that they have quite good eyes on observing like what you have been working on and what you could, like leave some pressures off, for having some enough space to, I don't know, learn another like things. So stop being too hard on yourself when it comes to like keep developing your skills as developers. Yeah,
Yeah, totally.
yeah,
That's right. Yeah. And I mean, because we were talking about this earlier, right? Like
yeah.
when you just start out, you probably, or I mean, that happens to a lot of us, then we feel like, okay, so I got some ground covered. I know what I'm doing. I know I felt that way like after I was done with the boot camp and was like, okay, so I guess I'm a programmer now. I know how to develop an app. I did it, la la la. And I was really like, yay. And then I realized, like starting my first job, I realized how little I know. And I
Mm.
was so terrified. And I was like, I'm never going to learn this all because it's scary. And there's a name for that. And it's called the
Yeah.
Dunning-Kruger effect. I'm actually going to share an image of that to our chat because it's too funny not to share. It basically
Yeah.
means the more like the progress of like your learning in relation to how good you feel about it. And it kind of peaks in the beginning. It's called in the diagram, it's called the Mount Stupid. So like when you start out, you actually know nothing, but you feel like very confident about it. Then there's kind of a drop, and then you slowly like come up again. And so I'm guessing like this is we have to think about this. If you feel like you're completely lost, maybe you are in this painful like growth period. Oh, that's awesome. Thanks for sharing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
this one. I thought it's worth showing it because I really
Yeah.
like this Mount Stupid, peak of Mount Stupid.
Yes.
It's quite straightforward and very
Yeah.
easy to understand, and I really can relate with my experience.
Hmm.
So,
Yeah.
yeah,
And
yeah.
if you're feeling like and you're in the valley of despair, that means you're growing, right? And that is not always comfy and fluffy. It's also very painful because you realize all the
Yeah.
things that you don't know. But it's gonna take you up the slope of enlightenment. I love the wording on this thing, and just like put you in a better place eventually.
Yeah. It's not always like keep going down. There is some
Mhm.
way, or there is some point that you start to feel a little bit like, okay, I'm gaining my confidence a bit. But I mean, of course it takes long, but there is some way that you start to feel like a bit, okay, I'm gaining my skills. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah, but this one is really good one. I actually didn't know this term or even didn't know how to pronounce. I was even asking to Josephine, like, okay, I have heard about this kind of, but don't know. And she explained me like right before we jumping into the streaming, like, oh, this is the diagram. And when I saw this diagram, it really like gave me all the informations that I need to know about this terminology
Yeah.
because that's something what I experienced, like exactly experienced.
Yeah, absolutely. I learned about this from a colleague of ours who we did a podcast on imposter syndrome, and he shared this, and my mind was blown. I was like, oh my God, now I finally understand. Like, it has
Yeah,
a name. Like, yeah,
yeah.
absolutely. No, that's
It
really
has a name.
cool.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh, but thanks for sharing.
Oh, no worries. I thought visual, like making things visual, like, give a little bit more info. Probably
Absolutely.
like quite some numbers of people have felt in a similar way, like by seeing this diagram, then like, oh, this is the one I'm having.
Yeah, yeah, it has a fancy
Yeah,
name. Are
yeah.
there any questions about like growth as a developer or anything we talked about? Please put them in the chat. Because
Yes, we
else,
would like
I
to
guess,
hear.
yeah. Because I think we're slowly coming to an end, and we would
Mhm.
like to hear from you how you're feeling about this, and whether there's anything you'd like to know.
Yeah. And also growing, let's say, as a developer doesn't mean that you just learn about the technical stuff. Of course, that's the some part of the stuffs you also need to do or want to do. But growing as a developer also includes the meaning of like, let's say, if you're thinking about to maybe like one day being like a senior developer or like in a position to take the lead, things like that, you also need to learn something a little bit different way instead of just like learning technical part. I mean, I have no experience like being in such positions, but from what I see, like in my team and the different teams of my colleagues who are like working hard to be better at in these kind of fields and the positions, they also have like a couple of other stuff they need to learn additionally too. So I think like that's also something could be interesting. I don't know, maybe for the future episode, because I kind of started to have some interest about like how people like are, I don't know, like gaining their knowledge to step up into like the senior positions, because I still haven't yet been into like such kind of the positions, but the information I hear from them, like the human side and let's say leading, taking a lead of the teams and things like that, sounded very interesting. The reason why I said is because one of our colleagues, Lizzie, she wrote a very good series of the articles, right? So I really wanted to share about that because she started as a DX engineer at Storepuck, and now she's in the lead at the production team. So what she has been learning, and also like considering like how the other team members of hers are working, was like quite impressive to read about it. I'm going to try to find the articles in there, but I don't think it should be hard to find it.
No, it's on
Yes.
her blog. It's like a 2-part series.
Yeah.
I actually read it last week and I felt very seen. Like it's about growing your skills as a junior and what your role is.
Yeah.
And I thought that was really like thoughtful, especially coming from somebody who's now like a principal engineer. So big shout out to Lizzie. Like this is really cool that she also cares about that kind of stuff. And yeah, I think there's so much to it, right? Like if you think about evolving to a next ladder, it's not only like you said the technical skills that you should improve, but also like how do you deal with people and how do you help others improve and what does that take? And there's so much to it. Like I also never did that, so I don't know, but I think would be super interesting maybe for a future episode to talk about both sides, like what does it mean to like move up the ladder, and also what can you maybe expect or ask from like higher ups, like senior or director or principal engineers or something. So we can definitely note that down. It's like a good topic for the future for sure.
Yeah. I need to correct the title of what I mentioned from the Lizzie's blog post because it was written The Junior Developer Journey. So I mean, like, although it's kind of related to how she became or like stepped in to become more senior position, that's something that you can already like find some, let's say, like interesting points starting from junior, like complete junior, into like something lead position. So yeah, that's why like we both were like so excited to mention about
Yeah,
because
for sure.
yeah, I found something like really interesting to know about it, and it was quite helpful. So being developers means that it doesn't mean that you only need to study and then like gain like the technical part. You also need to gain like the teamwork part and how to work better with the others, because behind the code we all are humans, and that's what you need to deal with and communicate. Yeah,
absolutely. Oh, that's
yeah,
so valid.
yeah.
Maybe we can do like a soft skills episode or something where we talk only about that, because I feel like there's so much to be said about it.
Yeah. I feel that. And I'm so surprised to see like so many developers out there. They have like amazing soft skills. I even sometimes doubt myself, like, why am I a Deborah? I feel like I'm so like not socialized one.
I know the feeling, like you're hiding like somewhere behind the booth and be like, don't talk to me. Like that's me for sure.
Yeah. Oh, Alvaro is here. Hi there.
Nice.
Nice. Yeah. He says soft skills are the hardest. Yeah.
That calls for like a standalone edition for sure that we should like conquer in the next year, maybe. And maybe we can bring Alvaro on. Let's see.
Maybe, yeah. I actually have a lot to talk about because that's something I struggled a lot, on my first time becoming a DevRel, like from just like being a front-end developer, joining to started to speak. So there is a lot to talk about as well. Yeah, and we also want to hear about like how you have been gaining your soft skills as well. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
So if there are no questions, shall we slowly wrap things up? I think we have a couple more mentions. But
Yeah.
then, yeah.
Yeah.
Do you want to do the honors?
I will do my best. So this is also part of gaining my soft skills. So I will take the honor. Yes. So yeah, if you have, let's say, like any questions coming up, even after the streaming, both of us are on Twitter. So you can find us on our username at the site that you can see like in the screen. So we'll be happy to see some of your comments on the tweets. Thanks, Josephine. And also, like, we have like one kind of like exciting information, or more of like an announcement that at Storyblock we also have a similar program. What GirlCode also has, the ambassador program. We also have actually an ambassador program, and the thing is, like, we are kind of updating and renewing like our ambassador program to be more interactive and more fun. So the thing is, like, the updated version of the ambassador program from Storyblock side will be up, I think, in December. So if you're interested in to be one of them, keep your eyes on our like social media, or you can actually go to the ambassador waiting list, as Sid behind the scene has posted just right now. So you can be excited and even start to take a look at what are the benefits being, an ambassador, and what you can do with that. So that's one thing we wanted to mention about it. And we also have a couple of live streaming going on. So there is a series of the one of the streamings we have is called Stories from the Block. So depending on the episodes, you will find like very different and various kind of topics. And it's gonna be like the happy holiday harmonies for the next edition. It's already like 10th edition. I didn't know that. So maybe as a wrap up of your year, probably it would be like fun to watch and celebrate the kind of holiday season and the end of the year together with us. And we also, of course, shouldn't forget to mention about our next GirlCode Coffee Chat episode. Because it's going to be more holiday season, we thought about like, let's take a very quick, like some nice holiday break. And then after that, let's come back again for the next episode. So next episode is going to be already in 2023, January. So we planned so far, I need to insist so far, to have on 24th. Yes, 24th. Yeah, and it's gonna be lunchtime. I would say that because I will be in Japan at that time. So for me, like joining around this time would be like midnight. So keep in your mind that it's gonna be a little bit earlier time, like lunchtime. So you can bring your lunch together to join our conversation, and also like asking the questions in our next coffee chat. So and follow us on Twitch so that you wouldn't miss like our future episodes in GirlCode Coffee Chat. And here is the Twitch info that you can follow us. All right. I hope I didn't miss anything in there.
No, that was all. And it's like so on point. We did exactly 1 hour. I think this is perfect timing. Enjoy the rest of the year, everybody. Let us know what you think. Let us know if you want us to discuss any other topics, or if you have any questions, you can always reach out to us and we'll try our best to help out. And else, we're super thrilled to see you again in the new year and start a new 2023.
Yeah.
All right.
Happy
Have a good
holiday,
evening, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.